While I distract her, you go over to her place and change the locks." Those words reached my ears like a poisonous whisper in the middle of my 70th birthday lunch at the Oak and Vine Bistro in Atlanta. Vera, my daughter, was leaning across the table, speaking into the ear of her husband, Keaton. They thought I wouldn't hear them over the murmur of conversations, but I did. And the most awful thing wasn't the betrayal, it was the casualness, as if stripping me of my home. The only thing I had built with my own hands over 40 years was as simple as changing the channel. Keaton nodded, his eyes darting toward me for a fraction of a second. Then he got up with an excuse about an urgent errand at the bank. Vera squeezed my hand. "Mom, you're radiant today." Lies wrapped in cheap flattery. I watched him walk away. Vera raised her glass in a silent toast, a sign that everything was underway. 50 minutes. During that time, Vera dedicated herself to entertaining me, asking about my health, my prescriptions, my grocery shopping. Every question was a calculated distraction. Every smile a perfectly rehearsed mask. I played along. On the inside, every second felt like an eternity. When Keaton finally returned, his face said it all. He entered the restaurant like a ghost, his hands trembling. Vera immediately stood up, alarmed. "What happened? Did you do what we agreed or not?" Keaton looked at me, genuine fear mixed with disbelief in his eyes. "Something went wrong. Your mother. The house." He collapsed into the chair. "I went there. Vera, I went with the locksmith. But when we arrived," he ran his hands over his face, "the house is no longer in your mother's name. There are new owners, people who are inside living there. They showed me the paperwork, everything legal. The sale was made 3 weeks ago." Vera froze, her gaze slowly settling on me. I was still smiling, calm, serene. I took a sip of my sparkling water. "Mom," Vera's voice was controlled, "you sold the house." "Yes, daughter, I sold it." It was my house, my property, the result of 40 years of working as a nurse at Piedmont General Hospital, of sacrifices she never knew. "When? Why didn't you tell us anything?" 3 weeks ago. And I didn't have to tell you anything. I didn't need your permission. Vera's contained fury intensified. That house was our inheritance. It was the only thing you were going to leave us. That house was mine. Vera, mine, not yours, not Keaton's, mine. Vera stood up. "Do you know what you just did? Do you have any idea how you've betrayed us?" The irony was overwhelming. I looked at my daughter, accusing me of betrayal when she had just tried to steal my home. I didn't betray anyone. Vera, I protected what was mine. I have a new apartment, smaller and more comfortable, in a secure building. And the money from the sale, it's in an investment account, well protected, generating interest that will allow me to live with dignity for the rest of my days. To understand how I, Elara Thompson, got to that moment, I needed to go back. I was 28 when I was widowed, left with nothing but debt and a 3-year-old girl. I took a job as a nurse's aide the next day. Working 16 hours a day, I saved every dollar in a cookie tin under my mattress. With $1,200, I bought a dirt lot in West End, Atlanta. It took me 4 years, paying a builder weekly to finish the house. For Vera, the house was simply where we lived. For me, it was the result of blood, sweat, and sleepless nights. I paid for her wedding to Keaton, using the $3,000 I had saved to fix the leaky roof. I continued to support them financially for years, but the house was always mine. The true nature of Vera's ambition became clear after the lawsuit. 2 years ago, I spent $32,000 to defend the property against my late husband's brother. When the judge finally ruled in my favor, Vera didn't celebrate. She looked at me with disappointment. Disappointment because I had won. The months that followed were characterized by her increasing attempts to manipulate me. She and Keaton began talking about my old age and how lonely I must feel, how dangerous the stairs were. Everything was for my own good. But what truly alerted me was the conversation I overheard 3 months before my birthday. They were on speakerphone with a lawyer, discussing how to wait for a temporary health issue that incapacitates her, then request temporary guardianship, using fabricated psychological evaluations and testimonies from neighbors about erratic behavior. During that time, they would have the legal power to sell my property. I left that house immediately. I didn't cry. I started planning. The next day, I hired Atticus Shaw, my old lawyer, and told him I needed to protect my assets. We bypassed their plan by executing my own. I chose to sell the house quickly and discreetly, moving to a secure building, the Haven Residences. I protected the money by opening multiple accounts, including an emergency savings account with $50,000 that required my personal and physical authorization, and instructing Atticus Shaw to be the sole legal contact in case of incapacity. This cost me $2,000, but it bought my freedom. For 2 weeks, I lived a double life, acting compliant while packing everything in secret. My old phone began to pile up with voicemails. The messages shifted from false concern to open accusation. Mom, this is not going to stand. That house was our inheritance. We are going to fight this legally. We have rights. Then came the formal notification. Atticus Shaw called. Vera had filed a court petition, alleging concern for my mental well-being and requesting a hearing to determine if I needed temporary guardianship. It was the exact plan I had overheard. I met with Dr. Francis Williams, a forensic psychiatrist. After thorough testing, he concluded, Mrs. Thompson, your results are well above average for your age. There is no evidence of cognitive decline, dementia, or mental incapacity of any kind. You are completely capable of managing your own affairs. The social worker, Emily Miller, visited my new apartment. She found it clean, organized, and well-stocked. I explained my move. I sold the property to protect my assets after I discovered my daughter planned to take it from me using questionable legal means. Her report confirmed, I believe you are perfectly capable of living independently and managing your own affairs. The morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully, wanting to look exactly like what I was, a 70-year-old woman in full control of her faculties. I arrived at the courthouse with Atticus Shaw. Vera and Keaton arrived with their lawyer. Thad began, outlining their narrative. Impulsive and irrational financial decisions, social isolation, and behavior suggesting cognitive decline. He spoke of the fabricated testimonies from neighbors. Atticus Shaw stood up calmly. Your Honor, what we have heard is a carefully constructed narrative to justify the control of a perfectly capable woman's assets. My client is not a confused old woman. She is a retired professional with 40 years of experience as a nurse with completely intact mental capacity. He presented the psychological evaluation and the social worker's report. Mrs. Thompson discovered her daughter planned to gain control of her assets using the exact mechanism we are seeing today. She took intelligent and completely rational preventative measures to protect what is rightfully hers. The judge looked directly at me. Mrs. Thompson, can you explain to me in your own words why you sold your house? I stood up. My voice came out firm, clear. I sold it, Your Honor, because I heard my daughter and her husband planning exactly this, how to obtain guardianship over me, how to fabricate evidence of mental incapacity, how to take control of my property. I wasn't going to wait for them to execute that plan. I protected myself. I looked at Vera. I'm not a woman who makes impulsive decisions. Every decision I have made in my life has been calculated and thought out. The judge turned to Thad Peterson. Attorney Black, do you have concrete evidence of the mental decline you allege? Medical evaluations, documented reports, anything beyond anecdotal testimonies? Thad hesitated. Not at this moment, Your Honor, but we can obtain them if given time. The judge closed the folder. I have reviewed all the documentation presented. The psychological evaluation of Mrs. Elara Thompson shows complete mental capacity. The social worker's report confirms that she lives independently without problems. I see no concrete evidence to justify guardianship, not even temporary. He looked directly at Vera. Miss Hayes, Concern is not a legal basis for removing the autonomy of a competent person. This petition for guardianship is denied. The bang of the gavel resonated like a final thunderclap. I walked out of that courtroom with my head held high. I did not turn back. My life in the Haven residences became a comfortable, predictable routine. I had made friends, including Astrid Keller, who had fought a similar battle. To the women who refused to be invisible. Astrid toasted one evening, who fought for what was theirs, who chose dignity over comfort. On my 71st birthday. I stood in front of the window looking at the city lights. I thought about the house I built, the fear of losing it, and I thought about how in the end losing it was what saved me. Because I discovered that what really mattered wasn't in those walls, it was in me. In my capacity to get up one more time. In my determination not to let anyone strip me of my dignity. It's never too late to choose your own peace. My phone rang with a message from Bryn. A photograph of my grandchildren. Maybe one day they would understand. Or maybe not. Maybe this story would end here, with a 71-year-old woman feeling freer than she had felt in decades. And that was enough. It was everything.